In order to write a good story, you need a lot of twists and turns that keep plotlines and beats sequential and intriguing to the viewer. If I had to take any example from a piece of media that perfected this, it would be Arcane. In the second season, we are experiencing a story that intertwines new information with old story beats. From these events, new actions are being taken, and the consequences are an accumulation of everything we've been building up until now. The new season introduced new factions and revealed underlying motivations from different characters. In the first 3 episodes, this crescendos into the circumstances Caitlyn and Piltover find themselves in. It was in the fight against Jinx, though, that changed the whole trajectory of the plot. And in this video, we'll look at how in this moment, the story elements caused the big bang of storytelling in Arcane. Going into the last fight, Caitlyn and Vi have a heartwarming moment where they express their affection for each other clearly. Vi says one phrase with sorrow but full of hope, that being, "Don't change like everyone else did." This is mainly pertaining to Jinx, her sister who has been terrorizing society ever since their separation when they were children. It was the catastrophe that altered both of their lives drastically and was the beginning of this tragic sequence unfolding before us. Caitlyn sees this and reciprocates what she can in the moment. Despite doing this, we need to remember the fresh wounds that she has from the attack on the council. Losing her mother was a big hit to her mental state, and with this, her mind associates Zaun with beasts who torment their counterparts in Piltover. As we've been going through the Undercity with their strike team, we see her inching closer to the edge of breaking. When they infiltrated one of Jinx's hideouts, they came up with no signs of her. Being on edge during this operation and her unprocessed grief for her mother, these emotions bubbled into rage, and she shoots one of the targets in the carnival-esque exhibit Jinx has set up. Her allies, including Vi, recognize this and console her for the time being. However, it takes a lot more than one moment of affirmation to soothe a broken heart. As they are interrogating one of the lackeys in Zaun, the henchman tells them everything he knows about what's happening. It was done in a frantic manner as Caitlyn was pushing the envelope through intimidation tactics such as bracking her rifle in front of the victim. We can see her uneasiness and impatience because despite completing their other objectives of the mission, they are no closer to truly avenging her mother by subduing Jinx. In a rush to corner Jinx, Caitlyn and Vi move into their target's location, and it is here they have another moment where, no matter what, if Caitlyn has the shot, then she should take it. They give each other reassuring looks and head into the chamber where Jinx is located. Vi takes the lead, and Caitlyn finds a point where she can acquire a surefire way to end this conflict. Vi and Jinx have a conversation before the fight where Jinx brings up old memories of their childhood while simultaneously pointing out the fact Vi has changed since then, donning an enforcer badge and hunting down people she used to call neighbors. This is a result of Jinx's first time seeing Vi infiltrate her hideout, where she elusively avoided them but had a clear view of what was happening. After escaping from the building filled with gas, Jinx is coughing up her lungs while tearing up and running away from her hunters. She is frantically trying to gain a hold of herself, and it is only after her scream of agony that you can attribute all of these symptoms not majorly to the gas, but to the fact that seeing her sister as an enforcer, a symbol of authority that terrorized their family and friends, caused Jinx to start spiraling to the point of grieving her sister. These events are also what caused Jinx to prepare the whole festivity of the arena they fought in and their plan to surprise Piltover with a show of alarming implosions. Once Vi and Jinx have had their conversation, the fight begins, and we can take a closer look at how each of the participants in this conflict deal with each other in their brawls. Caitlyn and Sevica are battling with all their might, and despite being in close quarters, Caitlyn puts up an amazing fight against someone who is trained in close quarters, especially armed with a new prosthetic that mutilates enemies if properly utilized. This is mirrored in Vi and Jinx's fight, where despite having the apparent advantage with their gauntlets, Vi isn't easily able to put an end to Jinx, who has the power of Shimmer on her side. Caitlyn is able to go all out against Sevica because they have no other relation despite being opposing sides. Vi and Jinx used to be a very close family, and while you think this might affect their battle, it doesn't seem to at first. The punches they throw are real, and the fight starts off with Jinx unloading into Vi with her minigun. Before Vi's gauntlets are disabled for a moment because of the wild runes, she's about to create a Jinx-sized hole into the stone. It isn't until the finale of the intense fight that we see some changes in the characters. Caitlyn prevails victorious over her scuffle, and she comes and wins the fight for Vi, hitting Jinx with a shot, causing enough of a shock for Vi to pin her down and call it done. It is time to deliver the final blow, but this is when the signs of hesitation start showing up in Vi. Jinx says the last of her words, and this causes a bit of recoil within Vi, but after collecting herself, she is ready to end this conflict for good. That is when Isha, the child that has been following Jinx around, gets between them with a gun and protects Jinx from saying goodbye forever. Everything goes quiet for one moment, and that is when Caitlyn escalates events to a whole other, absolutely absurd level. Caitlyn disarms the child by shooting the gun and then gets ready to shoot Jinx in the head despite Isha clinging to her like a precious family member. Vi sees this clearly and tries to get Caitlyn to think level-headed. At the moment, Caitlyn is becoming desperate and taking the earlier words of Vi literally, willing to take any shot she can to end everything. The nerves of Caitlyn are only becoming more sporadic as she shoots a warning shot towards Vi's gauntlets to show how serious she is about this and steal in her new resolve, a set of guidelines that validates the risk of injuring or scarring a child. Vi is able to stop Caitlyn in time, but everyone scatters from the ventilation system being blown up and Vi and Caitlyn being blown away. This moment is one of vital importance because it showed where Vi, Caitlyn, and Jinx stood at this time. In the next scene, Vi and Caitlyn have a conversation filled with frustration. Having failed their mission, Caitlyn is filled with anger because despite having seemingly resolved to go through with it, she believes Vi is still holding back, which is not entirely wrong. It also isn't entirely right either though. From her words alone, we can surmise that Vi simply didn't want to risk injuring Isha mentally or physically. Being in the shoes of the enforcer and having been in the shoes of the child, Vi understands what that situation was going to be if the shot didn't go as planned, or if it did, how it would result for Isha. There's a bit more than just having the shot that complicates the situation more. Either way, taking any sort of shot there would be abusing your power of authority and a compromise of good morals. Of course, Caitlyn cannot see this as she is blinded by recent trauma and still seeing no way out other than the elimination of Jinx. She cuts off Vi right then and there. She sees her as the weak link in this operation and proceeds to go after this alone. Vi, still being the sister of Jinx, could have been hesitant to do anything in that situation as well and been looking for an excuse to let Jinx live, but in the end, I think we can have both sides take responsibility in some ways. Jinx, the final piece on this chessboard, is creating core memories for kids such as Isha, very ironically seeing as Vi said Jinx was the one to orphan kids. Both of these statements can be correct, and it humanizes Jinx in a fucked up way. Another part that created sympathy for Jinx was the sight of her seeing Vi as an enforcer. Knowing their history, the audience can clearly see her distaste for Vi now. Even when she sees this, she hesitates herself to take the shot then and there to end Vi in the moment, so it doesn't surprise me that Vi could also feel the same way. Even when separated, family ties can still remain as strong as ever, no matter how resolved you might be to tie loose ends in one moment. While going full force towards each other in the fight, I still believe Vi and Jinx wish the other didn't have to die. Once Caitlyn reaches the top side and attends the meeting with Ambessa, circumstances on both ends of the society give power to Ambessa to call for a full militaristic approach to the conflict they are facing. She appoints Caitlyn to be the commander in charge of this full-scale offensive, and Caitlyn, being as volatile as she is, sees no reason to refuse this position of power and finally achieve what she has set out to do during this arc of her story. It is polarizing how Caitlyn went from a will-like character to one of questionable morals, and it's because of how Jinx upended her world. We were able to see this and so much more within one shot that she took during the final fight in this arc. That bullet alone showed how she was willing to upend a child's world, how Vi wants to remain reasonable in their revenge, and how human Jinx really is despite being a horrible terrorist. So, where does this leave us in the story of Arcane? I think Vi will take on more of a vigilante role, seeing as she is not welcome in either world now. I still think she will lean towards fixing the wrongs of both sides. I believe she'll take matters into her own hands, much as she wanted to before the strike team was formed. Caitlyn will plan a full-out assault on Zaun with the new forces she has available at her will. I am unsure if she will see what she is doing firsthand and give into it, or have a change of heart. I believe there is more the memory of her mother can do for her in these tough moments, and perhaps she just needs to push towards making that realization. As for Jinx, it is complicated. I think she will have to gather some sort of force of her own to power through Piltover's forces. I doubt she will go out quietly, seeing as she still has some sympathy for the people of Zaun. It all comes back to Isha, seeing how easily influenced she was due to Jinx's actions and how powerful of a motivation Jinx can be for the people she stood to protect from the grasp of authority in the overworld. Everyone else in the world has their own problems, what with the possibility of Jace, Echo, and Heimerdinger being trapped in some sort of apparition, Mel having to fight against an elusive force, and Victor cultivating followers to his pseudo-religion. Once all of these sides converge, circumstances are going to become a lot more complicated. There's a lot of ways Arcane can go, and given the factions that have yet to make monumental impact in the main plotline, I believe we'll get to see new characters make appearances, some familiar to longtime League fans, and others that are brand new for everyone. If the first arc is filled with defining moments like these, we'll get to see a lot more loose ends come together and have an even bigger impact.